Hola amigos, bien o no, saludos desde Medellín. Hoy el tema es autodidacta, or if you prefer in English, autodidact, and why teaching ourselves, or the ability to teach ourselves, is really important. Now we're learning a new language. Ese es el tema de hoy. So, autodidact. It's an interesting theme, how we teach ourselves. Very useful now we're learning a language. The real reason I think that it's particularly relevant for us is because we have such a range of materials available to us, but often lots of these, for the simple reason that the authors of this material don't know us personally, the material by its very nature has to be quite general. Which is great, particularly at the beginning, because any information is good information, right? But as you progress, the trick is to see if you can find material that is more relevant to your particular need. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's say you have a particular job, which therefore would require a particular type of vocabulary or maybe some specialist language or phrases that someone else working in a different job would need a completely different set of specialist phrases and specialist vocabulary. So as we advance, because our lives are a little bit different individually, we're going to need some specialist information to help us cope with our day-to-day lives, or the tasks we're trying to do. So at that level, we have to get better at being autodidact, or someone who teaches themselves. How do we go about that? Well, a bit like what we looked at yesterday, how do we find that creativity? Where we're looking, some of this is just really taking a very honest inventory, very honest, open look at what do we need the language to do for us? Really, what kind of things do we use it for? Because that's clearly going to start our search in terms of, okay, look, I need to be able to do this. Then we can think about what types of study do we find most productive for us, what works best for us. Maybe it's listening, maybe we prefer to read things, maybe we want other kind of like mixture of materials. How are we going to find that? Can we construct that kind of stuff? I mean, maybe you like using flashcards to help you memorize vocabulary, for example. So, you're going to make your own, or you're going to go look see if you can find a ready-made set that someone else has already done. How are you going to do it? Things to think about. Also with this, we have to come back to the idea of time. How much time in your day do you have to practice the language? Because that as well might affect how you're able to study it. If you only have short blocks of time throughout the day, then clearly trying long complicated study sessions or study materials are probably not really appropriate. But if you've only got like 1 day a week, you can give yourself a couple of hours on that day, then clearly you can take perhaps more complex material to deal with on that day. So there's a couple of things to think about. But the whole autodidact, or the self-learner journey, is very well documented. Lots of people have looked at this over many, many years. And it's interesting because this is where you've gone beyond what perhaps you've learned at school or college, because that's the test you have to sit. So you're just learning really just for the test. But then afterwards, maybe you still have an interest in that particular subject and you want to understand more about it. But obviously at that point, you don't have the backup of your professor or teacher to say, look, come on, we need to look at this, this, this. You can explore it the way that you find interesting. I think this is particularly important for language learning, because as we progress, it's going to take us a while. This is not something we can really take to a very high level in a short time. So we might as well look for things that we enjoy or find interesting. And that may well be very different for each of us. But the idea is not to be afraid of the fact that you have to become your own professor at a certain level. Now clearly you can seek outside help for some aspects of it. I mean, a lot of the students I work with have a very high functional level of English and their understanding, but they come to me generally for help with pronunciation and improving their speaking. But on a basic level, like reading and vocabulary, usually the level is actually quite good. So again, you might bring in specialists to help you with particular tasks, but on the whole, your selecting that assistance is part of your autodidact kind of journey, because similarly you might take a course or work with a particular person, much in the same way as you would pick particular books perhaps from a library, or choose a particular type of listening or material to help you with something you're trying to solve. So really it's like problem solving. So think about that. If you look at how you're studying now, I would guess you're probably using 2 or more different books, maybe some other materials, maybe some listening, reading, maybe you take an occasional class. But in many ways, the decisions you're making now about which of these materials to prioritize, which order to do them in, how you mix them together, how you combine them, what you're focusing on, this in many ways is an autodidact type decision. So it's a decision you're taking yourself to direct your learning to get to where you want to go, because really that's what it's about. We all have our own goals we're heading for. So there we go. So interesting topic, I hope, for you today. Have a think about that. Déjame saber, como siempre, en los comentarios. I hope you find this one helpful. But for now, from Medellin, it's Cheerio.